What if I told you that some of the greatest legends in baseball history, men who broke records, carried teams, and redefined the game, walked away from their careers without the one thing every player dreams of, a World Series ring? Baseball is a sport defined by numbers, moments, and immortality. But there's one measure that hangs heavier than the rest: championships. While stats earn you respect, it's rings that cement your place in the pantheon of winners. And yet, some of the best to ever step foot on a diamond never got that chance. Today, we're diving deep into the heartbreaking, awe-inspiring stories of baseball's biggest legends who never tasted October glory. From power hitters who terrified pitchers to pitchers who dominated batters but still ended up empty-handed. Stick around, because the last name we'll cover might just shock you. When we talk about baseball greatness, we often think of players like Babe Ruth, Derek Jeter, or Jackie Robinson, icons with the hardware to prove it. But for every Jeter, there's a Ken Griffey Jr., for every Ruth, a Barry Bonds. These are players who defined eras, yet the elusive ring always slipped away. Let's start with Ken Griffey Jr., often called the Kid. Griffey was the face of baseball in the 1990s, a perfect swing, a smile that lit up stadiums, and the kind of athleticism that made him a human highlight reel. Griffey hit 630 career home runs, was a 13-time All-Star, and won 10 Gold Gloves. He was the definition of a five-tool player. But despite carrying the Seattle Mariners and later joining the Reds, destiny had other plans. His Mariners had moments, like the unforgettable 1995 ALDS, when Griffey scored from first on Edgar Martinez's double to beat the Yankees. It was a career-defining highlight, but it never translated into a World Series berth, let alone a championship. Injuries and bad timing kept him from the mountaintop. For fans, it still feels almost criminal that a player as naturally gifted as Griffey never wore the crown. Now let's move to a man who might be the most controversial figure in baseball history: Barry Bonds. Love him or hate him, Bonds was a once-in-a-lifetime talent. 7 MVP awards, 762 home runs, the all-time record, and more walks than any player in history. Pitchers were so terrified of Bonds that he was intentionally walked with the bases loaded. Think about that for a second. And yet, even with all that dominance, Bonds never won a ring. He came painfully close in 2002 when his Giants faced the Anaheim Angels in the World Series. Bonds did everything he could, crushing homers, getting on base, but the Giants blew a late lead in Game 6, and the Angels took the crown. For Bonds, it was the closest he'd ever get. His career is forever debated because of the steroid era, but even stripped of controversy, his missing ring leaves an undeniable void. Now, if you're talking heartbreak, no story fits better than Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub himself. Banks was the heart and soul of Chicago baseball for 2 decades. A 2-time MVP, 500-plus career home runs, and a smile that radiated joy every time he said, "Let's play two." Ernie was baseball's eternal optimist, but optimism couldn't lift the Cubs out of decades of futility. During Banks' entire 19-year career, the Cubs never once made the postseason. Not once. For a player who loved the game more than anything, the fact that he never even sniffed a playoff game, let alone a World Series, remains one of the most tragic realities in sports history. If we're talking about greatness, we have to talk about Ted Williams, the splendid splinter. Williams might be the single best hitter in baseball history. The last man to hit over .400 in a season, batting .406 in 1941, and a career .344 average with 521 homers. Williams lost nearly 5 full seasons of his prime to military service in World War II and the Korean War. Imagine what his numbers would have looked like if he played uninterrupted. But even with his brilliance, the Boston Red Sox never got him a ring. Williams' one and only World Series appearance came in 1946 against the St. Louis Cardinals. Injured during the series, he hit just .200, and the Red Sox fell in 7 games. He would never get another shot. To this day, Williams is remembered as a hitting god, but one who never stood atop the baseball world. Now let's talk about a man who might be the purest hitter since Williams, Tony Gwynn. Gwynn was the face of the San Diego Padres for 2 decades. A career .338 hitter, 15-time All-Star, and 8-time batting champ, Gwynn was almost impossible to strike out. In fact, in 20 years, he struck out fewer than 450 times. Modern players do that in 3 seasons. Gwynn reached the World Series twice in 1984 and 1998, but both times the Padres were overwhelmed. In '84, the Tigers dismantled them, and in '98, the Yankees swept them. Gwynn reached the World Series twice, in 1984 and 1998, but both times the Padres were overwhelmed. In '84, the Tigers dismantled them, and in '98, the Yankees swept them. Gwynn gave everything to San Diego, refusing to leave for bigger markets, but destiny denied him a ring. Still, for baseball purists, his legacy remains untouchable. Now here's a question for you. Would you rather be remembered as the best player of your generation without a championship, or as a role player who won multiple rings? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be checking to see where you all stand. It's almost impossible to believe, but Nolan Ryan, baseball's strikeout king, never won a World Series. Ryan pitched for 27 seasons, striking out an absurd 5,714 batters, throwing 7 no-hitters, and consistently intimidating hitters with his legendary fastball. But team success always eluded him. He won a ring as a rookie reliever with the Mets in 1969, but he wasn't a central figure yet, and for many, that title doesn't feel like his. In his prime years with the Angels, Astros, and Rangers, Ryan never even came close to another World Series. For all his dominance, Ryan's story is a reminder that individual brilliance doesn't guarantee team glory. Here's the harsh truth. Baseball is perhaps the most team-dependent sport of them all. You can hit 60 home runs, pitch a no-hitter, or rack up batting titles, but if the pieces around you don't align, the ring may never come. That's what ties together Griffey, Bonds, Banks, Williams, Gwynn, and Ryan. Their greatness wasn't enough because baseball isn't about one player. It's about 9 men, a bullpen, a bench, and sometimes even luck. Their missing rings don't tarnish their legacies. In many ways, it makes them even more legendary. Because they remind us that greatness isn't only measured in jewelry, it's measured in the love of the game, in the memories left behind, and in the inspiration passed down to the next generation. So when we think about the greatest players who never won a ring, it's not about what they lacked, it's about what they gave us. The perfect swing of Griffey, the sheer fear of Bonds at the plate, the joy of Ernie Banks, the science of Ted Williams, the precision of Tony Gwynn, the fire of Nolan Ryan. Together they form a hall of greatness without the jewelry, but with legacies that shine brighter than any diamond. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think is the greatest player to never win a ring? Did I miss someone who belongs on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get the debate going. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into baseball's legends, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories from the Diamond, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Because at the end of the day, the stories that live forever in baseball aren't just about rings. They're about the legends who played the game better than anyone else.